Hey, vinyl lovers, Uncle Roddus back with another video. A specific video on a specific band. I've had one record arrive, and the record is one that I didn't think I was going to get my hands on for quite a while. And there's a bit of a history behind it all. So it's playing in the background. As you can hear, it's some pretty cool 70s psych. In the New Zealand collector's market, and a little bit around the world I suspect, the Human Instinct are a real collector's item. The history of the band was they started in the 60s as the 4/4s, went to England, gigged around a bit, didn't do too well, pretty much starved as most New Zealand bands did in those days, and still do, trying to break it overseas. They came back to New Zealand with a lot of new gear, and that apparently had some really high-end Marshall gear, which has really impressed a lot of people. And they came back playing a lot harder music than what they were playing when they left. Now, they did a couple of singles in England very early. One of them they changed their name to the Human Instinct while they're in England, and one of the singles they put out, it tunes up on site comps, the early 60s site comps now and again. As a matter of fact, I think I may even have one with it on it somewhere. But when they go back to New Zealand, they pretty much, the lineup changed considerably, and they thinned down to a three-piece. Maurice Greer is the drummer, and he's the singer, and he's kind of the leader of the band, and he also had a fella called Billy Billy TK, his name is. He was the Maori guitarist, and he's still around actually. I've seen him play recently, and he's fantastic, still awesomely good guitarist, one of New Zealand's best ever. Anyway, they come back to New Zealand, they swim down to a three-piece, and they were playing this really heavy psychedelic Jimi Hendrix inspired music. And they released, during the late 60s, they released 3 albums with Billy TK playing, and then after that he left and went on to form a couple other bands, leading his own band, which is pretty collectible too if you can find them. Human Instinct stayed on, did another couple more albums with Maurice Greer leading. Anyway, the 3 albums they released from 1969 to 71 are their grail really for me. Their other albums weren't anywhere near as good, and they're still fairly collectible. Now, the 3 originals, Burning Up Years, Stone Guitar and Pins in It, they were released in New Zealand and in Australia basically, but on 3 different labels: Pie Records, Marble Arch, and gosh, I can't remember the name of the other record label now. Pie, Marble Arch, no, it's really, I've lost it. Anyway, I remembered coming across Human Instinct back in the 90s, well, late 80s, very early 90s, and I was really, really impressed, you know. And the second album, Stone Guitar, is their pinnacle, I guess. All 3 albums are fantastic, but Stone Guitar is their pinnacle. A, because most of the stuff was self-penned, whereas the other 2 albums had a lot of other music penned by other people. Although one of them was a New Zealander by the name of Doug Jubine, or Jesse Harper is another alias he went under. He wrote quite a lot of the music that they played. He played around in England at the same time. They were over there, I think, and he was well regarded. He actually put out an album reissue of a lot of the music that these guys covered of his on an album recently. I haven't got a copy of that yet, but anyway, so what happened was that these things were really kind of rare as hen's teeth for quite a long time, because they didn't sell in huge numbers. And then I was lucky enough to, I think the very first reissue to ever come out was on a German label called Little Wing of Refugees. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but I scored a copy of a box set, and what they did was they released these 3 albums in a box set, and I picked that up somewhere around in Christchurch, and I can't remember where from, and I didn't know what an official was. I mean, I knew what a bootleg was, which is a live recording, you know, usually a live recording or studio recordings, but I mean, copies of an actual album really are, I call them pirates as opposed to a bootleg. Anyway, I had all 3 of them, and The sound quality wasn't the best, but they were still pretty good. Anyway, I sold that box set many years ago, and I have discovered now that it was, since then, or recently, that it was actually unofficial, or a bootleg, or a pirate, or whatever you want to call it. So there wasn't any other reissues done for a wee while, and then in 2000, Ascension Records out of Australia did a reissue of all three of those records. They did vinyl. I didn't know this, but they did vinyl and CD. Well, I've got the CDs. I picked the CDs up not all that long ago, not in 2000, but I've had them for quite a few years now, but I can't actually remember when I bought them, but I've got the CDs, and they've done me for years, and I thought I wasn't going to really bother getting them on vinyl, but amongst some other issues that have come out over the years, in 2011, a record label called Sunbeam Records out of the UK, who are no longer amongst us, and I can't find it. They don't have a website. There's no website around or anything like that. They're kind of defunct from what I understand. But they got a lot of Discogs listings, and they did a lot of reissues. So they were sort of pretty much a reissue label. And so they reissued these. And it turns out that apparently they're unofficial. Now, most of the catalogue from Sunbeam is not unofficial. It was done officially. So I don't really know why these are listed as unofficial. Somebody mentioned on Facebook that they were done without the permission of Maurice Greer, who pretty much owns the music. These were done with the permission of Maurice Greer in 2000 by Ascension, so they are probably the only official reissues that are actually available. There are other versions, but they're all unofficial, so you can't buy them on Discogs, and you certainly can't buy the Sunbeam ones on Discogs. Anyway, I'd seen these in the local shops. Now, even though they were out in 2011, copies sort of had turned up here fairly recently, and I don't know how, but I was reluctant. They were selling for about $55, and I was reluctant to buy them because, you know, I've got the CDs, and I said to myself, well, I'm not going to buy records that I already got on CD, although that rule's been broken on numerous occasions recently. But I think what happened was that last year at Record Store Day in Penny Lane in Christchurch, they had, like they did this year, they had a 50% off sale, and they had one of these in the bin. As a matter of fact, this one. And so I got it for like $25 perhaps, or $30, or I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's how I picked this up. So I did, I picked this up and I brought it home and I played it, and I knew about it, and I know Chris Walker had played a track off this on his, he actually played the title track on his show, podcast. Anyway, these had been remastered, and like I say, there's nothing that I can see on them that says that they're unofficial. I mean, it says, well, they were remastered in 2011, and I think these are the best that I've seen them. They kind of blow those CDs away. Now the CDs, as I said, were official. I don't know what the vinyl copy from Ascensions were like, but I suspect that they were pretty much the same. And I think that, you know, and judging perhaps from my original box set, that the original vinyl copies, the actual originals from the 70s, I don't think they, especially Stone Guitar album, I don't think they sounded all that good. And this has been remastered, and this sounds really good. And it did say on somewhere it was an audiophile version. It might have been on the hype sticker actually, audiophile version. And yeah, these are the best I've ever heard them. And so I thought, right, well, I got the first one, and then I knew that the second one, I knew this one had been floating around in another shop, Stone Guitar. So I did pick it up. I still paid, you know, I paid over $50 for it. It's brand new, gatefold. There's a whole lot of liner notes on this one. These weren't originally gatefolds, and so these are all pressed on 180 vinyl. They've got nice thick cardboard sleeves. They're really well done. The original artwork plus. The original sleeves were really, really thin. They used to make some really thin sleeves in New Zealand, in the pressings in New Zealand, and I have a couple that are like that, and they get bad ring wear. But these are good. These are really good. They're going to handle the you know, wear and tear for many years. These are expanded. The Burning Up the Years, that's just a straight album. But the next one they did, this one, they expanded it, and it's got the two sides of the original album. Then it's got side 3 is the single version of Black Sally. a single version of a song called Midnight Sun, which was, both of them were on the album, and then there's a non-LP single and a live track. Yeah, so the additional album is only 9 minutes on each side, so not a lot of music, but I played this one here just a couple of days back, and man, it just sounded fantastic. But this is really screeching psych Jimi Hendrix stone guitar is what you get. It is a fantastic album. So interestingly, actually, yeah, so there's two Doug Jubine songs on here. Sorry, so it's not, this wasn't a Rory Gallagher song called Railway and Gun, John Congo's, whoever he is, and then a Black Sally is by Dennis Wilson, and I don't know if that's the Dennis Wilson that I think of. So there's actually, stone guitar is actually the only, yeah, Billy TK and Maurice Greer pen song on this album. So what happened was that I bought those two, and not long after that, Discogs passed this new resolution saying they were not going to sell unofficial records, and so those got taken off the Discogs. No, they're still listed there, but you can't buy them because they were listed as unofficial. And as I said, I don't know why. There was a forum I found recently, and a guy who claimed, this was only last year, who claimed to be, he didn't claim, but he gave the impression that he was part of Sunbeam Records in some way. He said he was going to look into it as to why they were unofficial, but nothing has been done about that as far as I'm aware. So, Pins in It was the last album they did with Billy TK. My hopes of getting my hands on this had been reduced. Now, I had seen it in the shops and I hadn't bought it at the time, but it disappeared. And Discogs weren't going to sell it, and I was just like, well, I'm going to hope that one day it will turn up. Anyway, just the other night, well, actually the other day when I played stone guitar, and I posted it up on Facebook, and the conversation that started around that, someone said, oh, I was in Dunedin in a record shop the other day, and they had a copy of the Sunbeam reissue of Pins in It. And I straight away got on their website because I bought off them before, and sure enough, there it was listed on their website, second hand, but it's actually in absolutely mint condition. I mean, the cover is, there was a couple of marks on the vinyl, but it doesn't come through in playing, so I cleaned it up. So again, Sunbeam reissue. This is an expanded version with, again, double vinyl. So it has the original LP plus side 2 is a bunch of live recordings done in Australia of the same songs that are on the album, and then a non-LP single on side 4, which is about 8 minutes of music. That last single, which is called Texas Sparrow and Children of the Wood, I think that was done after this record, and I think it sounds probably more like what the band evolved into. It's sort of quite a lot different than what's on these, but this is what's playing in the background. And yeah, 3 really fantastic albums. Really pleased to have them in this format and in this form on this release. So as I say, there were 2 originals got sold on Trade Me in New Zealand, and they went for well over $300 each. And most of them are not in the best of condition, especially the sleeves, because as I said before, they're very thin cardboard they used in the old days. I do have a couple of records that I bought from that era, which I've managed to pick up originals, and I know they are like that. So that's my little Human Instinct video. So that to me is the pinnacle of New Zealand music in the 1970s, and I'd say there is some other fantastic records that I've shown over the last couple of years, and just recently actually I have picked up some pretty cool New Zealand stuff. And there is a lot, I mean, there isn't a lot out there. New Zealand music from the 70s is, you know, to be honest, the number of records that are out there that are worth collecting, that are worth getting from the 70s, you know, if you're into psych and hard rock and prog and stuff like that, progressive rock, you know, the number of records that were released in New Zealand is actually quite small compared with what's getting released today. And so it's not inconceivable that you could collect most of those records if you can find them. Of course, they didn't sell in a lot of numbers because we're such a small country, and so they are very rare, a lot of them. and unfortunately a lot of them go for really big money. There's a copy of Dragon's first album on Trade Me right this moment as we speak. It's pretty rough. At the moment there's a bid for $100 on it, but generally it will go for $600 or $700. I've got it on CD and it's a fantastic record, and I would love to have it on vinyl, even if someone reissues, because quite a lot of the records I've picked up have been reissues of New Zealand music, but I have managed to pick up a few originals. So, but yeah, you know, there's only probably less than 50 albums out there that are worth having. You know, maybe a bit more, I'm not sure, but you know, I'm familiar with quite a lot of them now, and I have a few of the lesser ones that I've managed to pick up, in that for, you know, a few of the lesser ones I've managed to pick up that are okay, but not ones you'd rave about. But yeah, there's not a lot of them, but you never know, you know, I haven't come across them. But if people reissue them, there's some, you know, even the reissues, I mean, like the Farmyard one that got reissued as a double LP, which is basically, I think they're only LP and plus a bunch of other stuff. You can't pick it up for under $100 off Discogs now, because it was reissued a few years back, but it was very limited reissue. So yeah, even the reissues they get rare pretty quick. So because there is a lot of people around who want to collect those and that. So be interesting to see what that Dragon one does go for. Anyway, I'm just prattling on a bit now. So that's my Human Instinct collection, and the other two albums. The next album that came out after Pins in It in 1974, it sold on Trade Me just the other day for like over $350. It's not actually that great an album. People who know it say, yeah, it's not all that good. So, you know. I'm not too worried about those two, but if they reissued it and I saw it in the shops for under $50, I'd probably buy it just to add to the collection. But anyway, that's me, another video. There's not a lot of vinyl coming in at the moment, not a lot of money, but I do have my trip to Wellington coming up soon, and got to keep some money for that. So there's 3 record shops up there that I'd like to get to. So that'll probably be my next video. Cheers, see you later.